I was always like very creative. I was always drawing a lot and making things and making clothes. And I ended up in art school, so that wasn't really surprising, I guess. And I got a BFA in apparel design. So, after getting out of art school, I moved to New York City and I spent quite a few years working as a fashion designer here. And that's where I really learned the end-to-end design process by shipping products at scale for like major US retailers like Macy's and J.C. Penney. So we're talking of like millions of units of clothing, like 270 million gross profit a year. And that's where I really honed my design skills. I also worked in luxury fashion at Saks Fifth Avenue and other designer brands for a short time. So I really have this like 360-degree view of the fashion industry. So from concept of designing all the way to consumer. And now product design has become the next step in my creative evolution. And my background in fashion shaped how I approach user experience. And I really believe that good design should be inclusive and reflect the diversity of our culture. So I'd like to start with one question. I want to introduce you to Fluid today, and I'd like to ask you this question. What if fashion didn't have a gender? Fluid is a new kind of fashion platform built to disrupt the traditional binary fashion system. It reimagines shopping for a generation that refuses to be defined by gender norms. This isn't just a bold vision, it's a 61 billion market opportunity driven by Gen Z values, demand for self-expression, and growing buying power. So first, I'd like to start with UX research. We'll talk about that first. And we'll talk a little bit, as Samaya had actually talked about this in her presentation, about a blue ocean strategy. So at the outset of this, this platform that we were designing, we had a goal. We wanted to be in the e-commerce fashion industry, but we didn't have a defined target audience. So rather than getting into an oversaturated market, I recommended like trying this blue ocean strategy to identify high potential underserved market niche. So instead of, I'm trying to, be in a red ocean with too much competition, we tried to find a market with high demand and lower competition. So that led us to finding a product that addresses unmet user needs. We identified a significant gap in the gender inclusive clothing market driven by Gen Z consumers who identify outside traditional gender norms. So with my background in fashion, I've seen how limiting the binary fashion system can be. And fashion, like all industries, should evolve to reflect the diversity of the people it serves. Through both my personal connections and a strong understanding of Gen Z values, it became clear that the fashion industry needs a more inclusive platform. As this case study will demonstrate, meeting the needs of the demographic is not only an ethical responsibility, but it's also a compelling business opportunity. So why Gen Z and the gender inclusive fashion? So we'll take a look at why Gen Z and gender inclusive fashion deserve our attention. The gender inclusive fashion market represents a largely untapped opportunity driven by a new generation with significant buying power. Oops. Sorry, one second. Gen Z makes up 26% of the US population, and 17% of them identify outside traditional gender norms. This generation is reshaping consumer behavior and driving demand for gender fluid fashion. Gen Z holds immense economic power with 360, I'm sorry, I needed to change the screen, sorry, with 360 billion in spending in the US alone, part of a global 450 billion. And that figure is projected to reach 12 trillion globally by 2030 as more of them enter the workforce. In the US, the gender inclusive clothing market is already valued at over 61 billion. Gen Z gravitates toward brands that genuinely align with their values. Those that embrace true inclusivity have the opportunity to build trust, foster lasting relationships, and gain a competitive edge. Ignoring this demographic risks not just lost revenue, but long-term brand relevance. As Gen Z's influence grows, the brands that thrive will be the ones creating inclusive, identity-affirming solutions designed with authenticity and purpose. So we started with empathy-led research. To shape Fluid's MVP, we conducted in-depth discovery research with gender nonconforming individuals, focusing on their lived experiences and unmet needs. Guided by a trauma-informed approach, we prioritized emotional safety, agency, and respect throughout. So this research phase includes one-on-one interviews with 9 gender-diverse participants, a survey to validate emerging patterns and behaviors, and a competitive audit of 16+ e-commerce business models. So the research objectives that I had, we wanted to focus on 3 core objectives: understanding the shopping behaviors and consumer motivations, exploring how fashion relates to gender identity and self-expression, and identifying opportunities for the digital solution for Fluid. This research revealed valuable insights into the user needs and directly informed our product. So through affinity mapping, after the interviews, I was able to organize all the responses and really focus on 7 key insights. So participants wanted to use fashion as a tool for self-expression. That was very important to them, to express their diversity. And they also found a need for inclusive sizing. So access to clothing that fits all body types beyond traditional male and female sizing was important to them. And visibility matters. These individuals want to see themselves represented in society, but also in product offerings and in brand narratives. So when the brands are selling to them. And authenticity over marketing is important. Gen Z they're deeply skeptical, I found, of superficial marketing tactics like rainbow washing, and they prefer brands that demonstrate true authenticity. As far as discovering product, they go through their trusted friends, influencers, online communities. They're not so swayed by traditional advertising, if at all. And also social responsibility is really important to this demographic. They value brands that support the LGBTQ community. They really want brands to practice ethical production and have some commitment to sustainability. And affordability was also important, affordability with sustainability. So many of them turn to thrifting to find fashion that reflects their identity while aligning with their values and budgets. So 3 key user pain points emerged after doing the affinity mapping and interviews and research and really thinking about it and putting it all together. And the 3 main points that we needed to solve were difficulty finding clothes that fit, especially when shopping across gendered categories. So size and fit was a main issue. The lack of non-binary options limits users' ability to express their authentic selves. So users really wanted to express who they really feel inside, and ethical choices come at a cost. So making sustainability hard to access for some budgets was an issue. So we needed to find who our early adopters for Fluid would be. So we did a user matrix and kind of came up with 4 different user types. So this is called like behavioral segmentation. We identified 4 distinct user types, and I'll just go through them quickly. So first is comfortable where they are. So they're pretty comfortable with the fashion choices out there and not so fashion forward. So the next is fashion followers. So they're a little bit less comfortable expressing their identity, not particularly fashion forward, but they often conform to gender norms to fit in. Gender hiders are more interested in fashion, but use it to conceal rather than express their identity. They're curious about being more expressive, but they don't yet feel comfortable or safe. And fashion expressors. So those are the people who are confident expressing their gender identity. They love fashion, they love clothes, and they see it as a powerful way to be self-expressive. So for Fluids MVP, we're focusing on the fashion expressors as our primary early adopters, as they're most likely to embrace a gender-inclusive platform. Gender hiders are a secondary audience who may grow into the expressors with the right support, community, and product experience. So let's take a look at a fluid persona. This is Alex. So meet Alex. Alex is a 23-year-old genderqueer creative living in New York City. As a fashion expresser, sometimes gender hider, Alex uses clothing as a powerful tool for self-expression. Working as a storybook artist in a fast-paced environment, they value individuality but don't always have time to shop. Alex prefers smaller, conscious brands and often blends thrifted pieces with staples like their Converse and Doc Martens. Socially connected, Alex finds inspiration in platforms like TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Pinterest. And while confident in their identity today, their journey with gender expression has evolved over time, with fashion playing a central role. Next, we created a journey map for Alex. So Alex's user journey follows 4 key phases. First is questioning. Alex begins to feel uncertain about their gender identity and is influenced by others while navigating societal expectations. The second phase is exploring. They experiment with style, seeking out supportive communities, and gravitate towards oversized or traditionally masculine clothing as a safe entry point. The next phase is expressing. So Alex now becomes more intentional, seeking brands that align with their values to build a wardrobe that reflect their authentic self. And finally is affirming, where Alex grows in confidence and fully embraces gender-affirming fashion, rejects binary norms, and lives comfortably as their true self. So at this point, we were ready for ideation. So just to get ideas out there really quickly, like I started just brainstorming and kind of just like with Post-its and things, just getting it all out of my brain and onto the paper. And so I just showing you this slide to represent like kind of like an ideation matrix. So this generated like a wider range of potential solutions, and then I organized them into impact versus effort. So prioritizing cost-effective strategies with high impact and low effort that would give Fluid the best foundation for growth. And after that, knowing with a clearer product direction, I conducted a competitive analysis focused on the proposed solutions that came about in ideation. First, I analyzed gender-affirming fashion brands, typically small, community-led businesses prioritizing ethical production, inclusive sizing, and authentic LGBTQ representation. Their strong community ties allow them to meet user needs with greater depth and relevance. Next, I explored successful e-commerce models, including subscription platforms like Stitch Fix, Nuuly, and Wantable, as this is a growing market segment, and it's projected to reach 123 billion globally by 2031. Also, secondhand fashion platforms such as thredUP, Poshmark, Depop, these deeply align with Gen Z's values around sustainability and affordability. And the US secondhand market alone is forecasted to hit 73 billion by 2028. And also, I identified a rising trend in social media, especially on TikTok, where users share style preferences and receive personalized style boxes of secondhand clothing, blending affordability, sustainability, and personalization. So that led me to reframing the problem for Fluid. So the research and analysis led to a key reframing of the challenge as a design opportunity. How might we offer clothing that empowers self-expression, embraces inclusive sizing, and prioritizes sustainability? This guiding question united the team around a shared vision for Fluid's MVP, addressing our target audience, core needs, while carving out a unique market position. A curated subscription box of thrifted clothing organized by fit rather than gender became Fluid's core solution and market differentiator. The how might we question helped us define Fluid's unique value proposition, directly tackling non-inclusive sizing while prioritizing sustainability and affordability. Thrifted pieces encourage conscious consumption and offer one-of-a-kind items that inspire self-expression. So next, I'd like to take a little look at the UI design. We'll take some time to look at that, starting with the user flow. So to demonstrate how Fluid delivers inclusive sizing and personalized self-expression, I mapped the key path for ordering a style box. The experience begins with a first-time user opening the app and moving through onboarding, which leads directly into the style quiz. Unlike traditional models, the quiz doesn't focus on gender. Instead, it focuses on fit preferences. So measurements, preferred silhouettes, how they like their clothes to feel, style aesthetics such as streetwear, Y2K, casual office, favorite colors, patterns. And the user can also leave personal notes for their stylists so that they can, request specific items or, have more of a conversation with their stylists and make it more personal. So this profiling approach ensures every curated box reflects the user's unique identity, removing bias from traditional gendered fashion categories. After completing the quiz, users can review their selections, confirm preferences, and place their order. These are just a few low fidelity wireframes that show the key path scenario of ordering a style box and just the key moments in that path. And as Gen Z is the first fully digital native generation favoring mobile-only experiences, Fluid is first being designed as a native mobile app. Now we'll get into a little bit more of the design. I'm a designer, so we'll get into more of like the visual aspects of Fluid. So I started with like a mood board, just trying to gather inspiration, colors, ideas, fonts, things like that, just to see like what things that I thought looked good together, what things were resonating with me. So I was drawn to vibrant, expressive color palettes, especially purples and even soft gradients, to convey movement, inclusivity. I felt like rounded corners and curved UI elements aligned with the concept of fluidity. And so you're going to see some of that in this board and also in my UI designs. And also did like a type study. So color palette. So as I iterated on Fluid's early designs, the color palette evolved to better reflect the expressive, identity-driven style of its target audience. I felt that the brand really needed strong, bold color. So initially, I had a bright orange, which you might have seen in the mood board, and different purples, and that wasn't quite working. So I ended up after getting some user feedback and showing it to some other stakeholders, ended up gravitating towards the analogous purples and keeping the color palette like really just like a more analogous color palette. And that seemed to work a lot better. So the soft gradients that I first considered felt too subtle, felt a little bit not bold enough. So I shifted to solid saturated colors. So I ultimately chose a vibrant purple as the core brand color, complemented by pink, purple, and dark grapes, accented, to create depth and contrast. Instead of stark white grounds, which you'll see when we get to the UI, I used like a very pale lavender color to help reinforce the brand's warmth and keep it welcoming. And all colors were tested for contrast standards. Typography, I chose Space Grotesque. I mean, if you're not a typography geek, you might not be as interested in this, but I chose Space Grotesque as the app's sole typeface. I wanted a sans serif for sure, and this font features relatively uniform stroke weights and geometric structure, giving it a minimalist yet contemporary feel. It's also highly legible across various sizes and has a wide range of weights to support visual hierarchy. So if anybody works in typography, you know that that's important to have like a lot of different, sizes and weights that you can choose from. And it's also an open source font, which aligns with Fluid's values of accessibility and inclusivity. For the logo, I chose a different font that, goes well, I think, with a Space Grotesque. And this is Nikomoji. It's a distinct display typeface with rounded edges and disconnected letter forms that suggest digital movement and fluidity. Its unconventional structure breaks from traditional typographic norms, perfectly reflecting Fluid's nonconformist, inclusive identity. And the word mark appears in knockout text against the brand's vibrant purple color for a bold, modern impression. This is some imagery that I put together as I was doing my mood boards and design inspiration to give me some imagery to use in my UI design. And next we'll take a look at the high fidelity mockups. So the mockups bring Fluid's core user to life, beginning with the onboarding screens. This introduces the user to the platform and highlights the brand values. So there'll be like three onboarding screens. Also, in the first screen, they have the option to sign up. If they already have an account, they can sign in. But if they don't want to make that commitment yet, they can explore as guests. So I'm trying to make, the barrier to entry low. So if they want to try it out first, they don't have to sign up and give all their information until they're really sure. So next is the style quiz, and this was designed to capture essential information like fit preferences, measurements, style aesthetics, personal notes, without relying on gendered categories. So this ensures that each curated box reflects the user's authentic identity, fit, and style. And then the last set of UI screens is the checkout. So it's, selecting a subscription box, a delivery frequency, and then placing their order. And that this experience is meant to be intuitive and user-centered and support a seamless journey from onboarding through order confirmation. And the last thing we'll talk about is business strategy, a little bit for Fluid. And to me, this is the most exciting part. Because it's how Fluid can grow and who it affects and who's involved in Fluid. So first, creating a stakeholder map was helpful. So we identified key players to understand who Fluid serves and who Fluid impacts. So direct stakeholders would be Fluid's core users and those excluded by the traditional binary fashion system and maybe their close friends and family. Indirect stakeholders include resale fashion platforms, subscription services, fashion influencers, maybe even some binary fashion brands and LGBTQ advocacy groups. So this map clarified more for us Fluid's market position and highlighted potential allies and competitors. And I'm just going to touch briefly on Fluid's business model canvas, because this outlines key components of Fluid's strategy from its target customers and value proposition to key activities and revenue streams. So key activities would be sourcing quality thrifted clothing, managing the e-commerce platform, curating personal style boxes, and building strong customer relationships. The value proposition is the inclusive sizing that we're offering, personalized styling, sustainable practices, and genuine support for the LGBTQ community. Target customers, fashion-forward, gender non-conforming, Gen Z consumers who prioritize self-expression and ethical fashion. And the channels will primarily be digital, e-commerce, social media, and strategic brand partnerships. The cost structure is lean, certainly at first. Operations are focused on pre-loved clothing, sourcing, and scalable growth driven by the recurring subscription revenue. And just touch quickly on 3 phases of growth that we see for Fluid. So phase 1 is the foundation and growth phase. So this phase would focus on building a strong foundation by launching and refining the subscription box model through user feedback, optimizing the personal styling and sizing services, establishing reliable and ethical sourcing channels, and partnering with the LGBTQ organizations to embed advocacy into Fluid's core identity. Phase 2 would be about expansion and diversification. So this phase aims to grow Fluid's community and broaden its offerings through collaborations with influencers and like-minded brands, hosting events such as clothing swaps and pop-up shops, hiring talent from within the community to ensure authentic representation, and exploring partnerships with binary fashion brands that might be looking to enter the gender-inclusive clothing space. And the third phase would be AI integration and social shopping. So in this phase, Fluid would introduce advanced features like Friend Assist, a collaborative styling tool that makes fashion social by allowing users to co-create style choices with friends, kind of similar to like Tinder's interaction model. And additionally, we would want to add an AI-powered body measurement tool so that would enhance fit accuracy and reduce returns. And that is Fluid. That's my presentation. So Fluid, they're digital natives, tech savvy, value driven, unafraid to challenge the status quo. They're a diverse generation that's defined by fluid identities, individuality, and a demand for authenticity. And they care deeply about sustainability, inclusivity, and real social impact. So thank you for listening to my presentation. I welcome your questions and feedback and would love to hear your thoughts on Fluid.
By the way, Andrea, as you've been talking, the chat has been blowing up with praise
Oh,
of
really?
your presentation. So you have done an
Okay.
incredible job, and you're going to see it in the chat. And everyone is just blown away by like the quality and caliber of
Oh,
your work. So just like,
great. Thank you. Um, where do I start? Is this the chat still from the previous?
yeah, so it'll be ongoing. I think you could probably just zoom into the timestamp right now because no one's been asking as many questions. So folks, if you did ask questions, maybe repost it so that Andrea can join at the 127 timestamp and answer any questions that folks might have about her project.
Okay, I'm trying to find like a good time to,
So we're actually have folks who want to collaborate with you as well. So Andrea, would you like me to start reading out the questions? Would that be
oh yeah, I see where it started now.
okay?
Oh, somebody else is a fashion designer. I love that. Maybe you can put your contact information in the chat. I've been hearing that there's not an awful lot of fashion designers that get into UX design, so it's always good to connect. Okay, I'm trying to find ones that relate. Recent graduate from Fashion Institute of Technology. That's great. That's a good school. Love the focus on trust in reaching this audience. Trust is such a key value for all human-focused design, and it's interesting and heartening to consider in the area of gender identity and fashion. You are asking people to extend their trust in your brand and to extend understanding in an area where they have potentially felt vulnerable. So I love that you said that. When I started interviewing people, like I didn't have any idea what they were going to tell me. And I really found it so interesting to hear their stories and they really all shared with me very from their heart and everything, and they trusted me. And I was really thankful for those people that did allow me to interview them. And they kind of all said a lot of very similar things about not having trust like of big corporations and of feeling exploited by people. And they really sincerely do want that. Like they want people to understand them. They want people to accept them, and they want people to be authentic and genuine with them. And I think we all want that. So I think when we design inclusively for one group, it really applies to all of us. And that's why I think I'm really interested in working on projects like this and projects that are, um, you know, helping us all to be more inclusive, because it's something that's very important to me personally. So someone said, do the Gen Z know that sustainability and affordability cannot go together, actually, especially regarding clothing? And that is something that came up in my interviews and my research that I did, was that a lot of the participants really wanted to support sustainable fashion brands or sustainability in general, whether it was in fashion or not. But they did say that affordability was a barrier a lot of times. And they were honest about that. They were like, yeah, I mean, if when it really comes down to it, if something on Amazon is cheaper, I'm probably going to buy that, even though I really do want to support the sustainable fashion brand. So that's where, and they did talk about thrifting for that reason, and thrifting also for just for self-expression as well. To find unique things or things that, not everybody else was wearing. So that's where the thrifting idea came in. And in that way we could source source clothing at a really low price, at least at first. And then we can see where we want this to go and how we want that to lead. But we definitely could have channels where we can source things at a low price and provide, like, a sustainable fashion brand for people that are looking for that. So that's a really good point. Oh, thank you. Somebody said, Andrea, oh, it's Samaya, mentee at UX Woman, and we are super proud of her. Thank you. That's so nice to hear.
I had a proud mom moment. Sorry.
Thank you. This is a beautiful typeface. Thank you for that. Yeah, I also did quite a bit of graphic design coursework. In addition to my fashion design I had got a BFA in fashion design, but also did graphic design coursework. And I'm not like a perfect graphic designer by any means, but I learned a lot about typography and how important it is, and how every typeface really has a feeling to it and tells a story. And really, you need to choose the right typeface for your project. So hopefully I achieved that, and I'm glad you like it. Has the Fluid app been launched? Is there a website with some information about it? Not launched yet, being worked on, and I guess to be D. So yeah, I mean, it's something that I'm working on, something I'm very passionate about. It's at the very, very early stages, and we can keep you updated. So does the type of UX case study in your portfolio affect what jobs you can get? I've seen people say it should match the field you want to work in, but I'm not sure what sector I want to be in yet. So I remember feeling that same way, actually, not sure what sector to be in. And it took me a long time to figure it out. And I don't know why, because it was right under my face, right? I had all this fashion experience. Like, I had been a fashion designer for most of my career. I also had, as I had said before, experience in luxury or retail. And I really got to see the whole entire industry. And then when I wanted to make a move into UX design, I didn't know what sector I wanted to be in. And finally I was like, why wouldn't I lean on all of my fashion expertise? Because it's an industry that I really understand thoroughly and that I really like. So I think if you can look at maybe what experience you've had already, if you can think about what you've done before that you actually liked if you did like it, that's even better. And then how can you rebrand that experience into a UX design career? Now, having said that, I don't think that you like Yasmin was saying, like she got into like a lot of different industries, and I don't think you have to just stick with one industry. But for my portfolio, I did choose to kind of focus it on fashion brands and my fashion experience, just so that I have a cohesive story and I can tell people this is who I am, this is where I came from, this is what I bring to the table. So I would say that it's like a little bit of both. You can, focus on, one or two sectors and showcase like, what your story is, like where you came from and what only you know, your secret sauce. So mine happens to be my fashion background. Oh, thank you. Your presentation was very engaging. Thank you so much. I have been hosting clothing swaps for years before it was a thing. I love that. I think that's so great. I would love to go to one actually if you want to let me know. Um, and it sounds like a lot of fun. Um, let's see what else. Kind of a lot of great work. Thank you. Thank you all so much for the kind words. I really appreciate this. Somebody asked me if I need help with user testing. I would love for you to reach out. Absolutely. If anybody wants to like collaborate or reach out on this project, I'm my uh email and LinkedIn are on the screen right now. Please reach out. I would love it. Thank you. Somebody has a question about trauma-based, trauma-informed research approach. So I'm more on the design side. I did do research for this project. So I do know about that a little bit, and I wouldn't consider myself, an expert UX researcher, but where the trauma-informed approach came in was, just looking into that a little bit, like what does that entail? Because it's a little bit different than approaching people in a non-trauma informed way. These are people, and I found that when I interviewed them, that often feel marginalized, often feel that they're not seen and heard in our society, and that they're even somewhat afraid, especially right now. So just being like, more having more empathy and giving them more space and letting them tell their story and really listening to what they're saying, I think was really important. So I did research what trauma informed um, research it was and try to use some of those tactics when I was interviewing people. So I think that that was like a really good thing. So whenever you find yourself in a research capacity, maybe if you do have an audience that has some type of sensitivity or something that you need to be careful about, what they might be revealing to you because it might be really personal. You can research what trauma-informed research is and try to incorporate that into your methodologies. So it says, I was curious where I sourced my, somebody was curious where I sourced my preliminary market research data, specifically on the slide after the red blue ocean analogy. So I did do, as far as data research, I did that online, researching, just like Google researching and going on websites and, finding out, like vetting, are these like, reliable sites and stuff like that, or what organizations are out there, like the Trevor Project and, you know, uh, different organizations that are, advocating for this type of, community. And, yeah, I definitely got like a lot of like numbers and data as to like how many people are in this, in this community and, what kind of market opportunity or market you know number is this. So I got that from online research. This question is, how can you curate sizes across various brands with different fits? So these Fluid is a very curated subscription box model. So people would be giving like their measurements. This is where hopefully at some point the AI integration comes in with fit and everything. So that even for any fashion brand, that makes fit so much more accurate and everything. So we're curating, across different gendered clothing, different sizes, different brands. So it's more like very personalized sizing. And it's thrifting your way to try to balance sustainable design with affordable design. Exactly. That was the solution that we came up with, that for more affordability and sustainability, we're gonna thrift, we're gonna find resale. I mean, fashion resale is so big right now anyway. And it's like, how can we keep that clothing out of landfill for as long as possible? So yeah, that's exactly the idea. Adaptive fashion clothing is really cool. Yes, definitely. Another fashion designer, great. Zara, another fashion designer, amazing. So someone asked Persia, I think, I wanted to know, how did you finalize the exact problem you need to focus on and which method you use for finalizing the same? So finalizing that problem was a process. Like at the very beginning, we didn't even know what we were going to design, right? We just were like, okay, we're in the fashion space, and we want to be in e-commerce. So we really didn't have the answers at first, which I think is fine. It's kind of, it's kind of cool. Like that's like, how you figure things out, right? So it was through like interviewing and listening to people, putting all that information together, analyzing it, asking questions, researching more online, thinking about things, just letting things kind of like sit there for a while. And then as I did research and as I started like going through the process, it became clearer, and then I think really when the competitive analysis came in, it's like, okay, we have all these ideas. I have all these ideas. I have all this information. I've looked at so many things. What's really out there? What's really doing well? What's resonating with people? So subscription box models are that business is growing. That business is strong, right? So that was like a definite path that seemed like a really strong path to go. And then also fashion resale, which is definitely like, really growing. So combining those two together, and I mean, it just seemed like a really good idea. Then actually talking to people about it and saying, hey, this is my idea. Like, what do you think about it? Like people in the target audience kind of demographic, and they were like, oh my God, I really love that. So it started to be like, okay, I think we're onto something. Sorry, my dog is barking. She, I'm in New York City and it gets noisy sometimes. So yeah, I think like you go through a process and sometimes it takes a while to get there, but also using a how might we, eventually using a how might we question kind of like reframed it and made it more clear of like, you know, what the direction should be. Somebody said, I loved your presentation. I was a reseller for 2 years on Depop, eBay, and Poshmark, and these platforms, along with the TikTok shop, influenced me to become more interested in UX. I love how you focused on Gen Z. Do you have advice on how to approach users for interviews or gaining trust of people you want to conduct research with? Um, I'm not I lean more on the design side, so not research, but like I said, I did do the research on this project and approach for interviewing users or gaining trust. I mean, I kind of just had like honest conversations with them, like as if, like I didn't make it so formal. I didn't like, I asked their permission to like definitely like ask people's permission if you wanted, if definitely if you want to record anything or, that's a definite like request that first because some people are not comfortable with that. Um, and yeah, I think being just keeping it casual and friendly. And a lot of times like I had questions that I was like, "Oh, I have to ask all these questions and everything." And people just started talking. And I almost learned more in that way, like letting them kind of do their own thing and maybe this is not like, like exactly how research should go, but it worked for me, at least in this case, like letting them tell their story and letting them you know tell me how they felt about things. And I think that I just got some really good responses that way and had some really good conversations with people. How did I find participants for the interview? So I put messages on some Slack channels. Like I did use some of the UX design channels that I'm on because I think people that understand like, oh, they know what research is. They understand, that people need to research people or to interview people, or were more receptive. I did find that. Also just kind of like word of mouth, people I knew, people I would ask. Yeah, it's sometimes you have to really dig to find people. That can be I kind of found that to be the most challenging part of it was like finding because you want to interview people too who are your audience. You don't want to just interview your best friend just because or your friends and family just because they're there. You want somebody who fits into your demographic as much as possible. So I mean, I know when you work for like a bigger company and stuff, something they have ways of, companies that help people find you know, uh participants and all that stuff, and they pay a lot of money for that. But this was just like scrappy and just like small. So yeah, you can just like maybe even, you know, just any like online group that you might be a part of or whatever, like just finding people and just asking, talking to people. We have a lot of fashion designers here. I think that's really cool. ThreadUp, yes. ThreadUp was in my competitive analysis. They have a similar model, resale fashion. Oh, there's quite a few more questions. We have about 10 minutes.
And yes, Andrea, please don't feel like you have to answer every single question. I know there's a lot of them coming,
Yeah.
but in the next 10 minutes, whatever you can answer. And if you're willing and up for sticking around and answering questions in the chat, you're welcome to do so, but
Hmm.
not required by any means. But yeah, I don't want to put pressure on you.
I'm seeing so many fashion designers. I think that's so cool. It's amazing. And somebody in retail, jewelry, menswear. That's the other thing. Like I'm interested in just any of like accessories, beauty, like that whole like you know, like that whole e-commerce or whatever part of UX design. I think, we don't think of that at first when we say, oh, I want to get into tech and everything, but there's a whole, like people are selling stuff on the internet every day, right? Every brand needs an online presence. And even now, like ChatGPT just released a month ago their shopping feature where you can just type in the chat GPT, like I'm looking for like, I don't know, black t-shirt for $20, short sleeve, whatever. I'm looking for like sneakers, and they will like just give you like a bunch of you know, different options, and you can just shop right off of ChatGPT now. So I think there's always like different ways that and brands are, looking to reach their customers, right? So it's definitely a big part of UX design. I think that there's also a lot of questions that are more career oriented.
I think we'll have time to get to more career-oriented
Yeah,
in future presentations as well that are more specific to healthcare or QA and graphic design
yeah.
based on the speakers. So whatever is more closely related to what you can answer, feel free to prioritize those. But we definitely love how engaged this audience is.
Mm-hmm.
It's really good to see
That's like a
all
whole,
these questions. And we'll do
yeah.
our best to, send over some job search resources after in an email. I know a lot of folks had trouble signing in, so I'll do my best to send in as many resources after the conference in an email.
Mm-hmm. Somebody said thought your landing page was clever to include a way to navigate without committing to signing up. A lot more people will feel comfortable perusing the site to get a feel for whether it is something they would like to use before giving sign up information. Also, your pages are so clean, hierarchy is very smooth. A lot of e-commerce apps are so busy. Better for those that need to use accessibility tools and faster loading. Oh, thank you. So yeah, definitely when I was designing this, I was really thinking about where do I want this user to have to sign up, because I know I find that annoying. Like you have to give your email and you weren't even that interested. And then a lot of times like that's where you have drop off, right? So I designed it so that they have to give it after they take the quiz and see like a little preview of their style box so that if they're not interested, we're not bothering them. You know what I mean? We're going after our true core users. And I don't know, we would see if this ever had to be changed. But to me, it's like, if I'm annoyed and I'm dropping off, like I think that's bad. Like I don't like that in an app. So that's why I moved it to as late in the process as possible. And, I suppose you could look at it that, okay, but you want to grab people's names and numbers. So, there's an argument for each, I guess. A lot of fashion designers. I'm so excited about that because, like, up until now, everybody's told me like I never see a fashion designer, UX designer, and it's like it seems to be like because think about it. If you learned how to design clothing and you went to design school, like everything about color, a lot about layout and getting product made at scale. So many things that are very, very applicable to UX design. So I think that yay for the fashion designers. I'm excited about that. And maybe that's about it. Maybe I'm missing some, but I think that's about it then.
Okay, yeah, thank you so much, Andrea, for joining us and sharing your incredible presentation. I think the audience really enjoyed this one a lot, so big kudos.
Thank you.
Is there any last
Oh,
final
two
thought
more.
that you have, I guess, to kind of wrap up and just conclude your thoughts?
Um, well, I can't think of anything quite offhand, but that I guess I really enjoyed working on this. I think it's important. I think especially now for people who are, not in the mainstream, that they have a voice. I feel so strongly about that, and I hope that that voice doesn't go away. So I guess I would leave it at that.
Agreed, 100%. Yeah,
Hmm.
that's a great way to conclude the presentation. So thank you so much. Uh,
Thank you.
And with that, I think we will bring on Velvet, our next speaker, who transitioned from education into UX. So I know Velvet's online.